join with you in welcoming the witnesses testifying before us on oil prices and the economy, the way forward. Oil prices have plunged, as we know, during the recession, but have started to increase more recently due to greater optimism about the economic outlook. And while some of this recent optimism may be questionable, given the latest data on retail sales and business investment, it is reasonable to believe the economy will be in recovery by next year, especially given the huge injections of money and credit by the Federal Reserve. The key challenge to energy policy now, given the long lead time involved, is the need for investment in exploration and production to meet oil demand over the long term as opposed to an oil price spike in the short term. Nonetheless, as the international economy recovers, it's likely that oil prices will increase. In considering this issue, it's important to note that state-controlled oil companies and OPEC and Russia and others account for 3/4 of the world's oil reserves. These state-controlled companies, not private firms, are behind periodic attempts to manipulate the global oil market and exert monopoly power to hold up prices. Whatever the lasting success of these efforts, there's little doubt that state-controlled oil companies are a major and growing force in the world oil market. There are also other state-to-state projects underway, such as the effort to arrange financing for the Brazilian National Oil Company for the Chinese government. These efforts, whether they are undertaken with Iran or Venezuela, are not only an attempt to guarantee energy supply, but also to guarantee energy work by suppliers and others with these foreign governments. And those jobs replace U.S. jobs. OPEC's cuts in oil production to hold up prices are only one of the many reasons we should want to encourage oil production in North America. The U.S. and Canada together hold 15% of the world's proven oil reserves, 200 billion barrels, and their resource potential is much greater. The U.S. can and must do much more to expand domestic production of oil as well as natural gas. Technologies such as hydraulic fracturing, seismic imaging enhanced by geopositioning satellite systems, and steerable drilling with gyroscopic guidance systems together can significantly expand economically recoverable oil and gas reserves. Steerable drilling allows precision drilling along variable trajectories without repositioning the drilling rig, which is particularly beneficial offshore. And furthermore, when horizontal drilling was combined with fracturing in the early years of this decade, large volumes of natural gas became recoverable from rock formations that previously had been regarded as depleted or could not be tapped at all with conventional methods. Unfortunately, instead of encouraging U.S. oil and gas production, the federal government has placed excessive limits on exploration and drilling, including effectively making offshore drilling impossible in many areas. The administration would further penalize oil and gas production in the United States and would offshore U.S. energy jobs by the imposition of a variety of new energy taxes. Treasury Department justifies these tax increases by arguing that the lower taxation under current law, quote, encourages overproduction of American oil and gas and is detrimental to long-term energy security, unquote, at least partly because it boosts more investment in the oil and gas industry than would occur under neutral systems. With all due respect, it is a policy designed to suppress traditional U.S. oil and gas production, and it's absurd. The Treasury notes the lower taxation under current law is also inconsistent with the administration's policy of reducing carbon emissions and encouraging the use of renewable energy sources through a cap-and-trade program. In other words, at a time when we're nearly 60% dependent on foreign oil and we need dramatic new investments in energy throughout the world, our government is doing just the opposite. Thus, it appears that the counterproductive nature of this administration and the proposal is not an unintended consequence, but a result of deliberate design, less U.S. energy. Congress should block these tax increases precisely because they would undermine oil and gas investment in production, as the Treasury itself concedes. These traditional sources of energy are the bridge we need to the future of renewable energy. We are all in favor of seeking more renewable energy sources so long as they are economically viable. However, we should not be seeking to suppress traditional energy production that we know is economically viable. According to the Energy Information Administration, the truth is that oil, gas, and coal provide most of the energy in the U.S. economy and will continue to do so for many years, tax increases targeting our U.S. energy production, including cap and trade tax, will weaken the economy, undermine U.S. competitiveness, and lower American living standards for decades to come. I'd yield back.